Hi to everybody. On behalf of the Pittsburgh Pirates, we're mighty happy to be a part of the fundraising program here on this telethon for WQED, without question the nation's outstanding educational channel. And I think to kick things off, we should talk to General Manager Joe Brown, who is looking forward to a wonderful 1959 season with a great deal of enthusiasm. And Joe, I don't mean to put words in your mouth, but I'm quite certain that the optimism that you have is shared generally throughout the entire Pirate organization.
Bob, there's no doubt about that. But before we talk about the Pirates, I'd just like to say a few words about WQED. I know personally how much good they've done for the community, and on behalf of the Pirates, I'd like to express my gratitude to them and my hopes that their fundraising drive will come through as it always has in the past. I think the general citizenry of Pittsburgh recognizes the wonderful things that WQED has done and the national recognition that they've gained for the city of Pittsburgh. And as a result, that's why I'm so pleased to be here and have the opportunity to say a few words about such a wonderful organization.
Well, now, Joe, carrying that line of thought along into our 1959 campaign, we're not going to put you on any particular spot, but does it look a little more hopeful to you than in any time that you've been connected with the organization as its general manager?
Well, Bob, this time a year ago, I sent a letter to all of our players in which I stated that it was my firm belief that we had greater talent, greater ability in the players that were coming to spring training. And I think that the same thing is equally true. That is, I think we have more ability on the Pittsburgh Ball Club in 1959 than we've had in many, many years. And as a result, I've got to be optimistic. I think we've got a soundly balanced club. I think we have top management on the field in Danny Murtaugh and a very capable staff of coaches. As a result, we're looking forward to the year, as you said. We just can't actually wait for the season to roll around and for things to get underway.
Joe, I rather imagine that the tremendous finish put on by the Pirates in the last half of the 58 campaign has been reflected somewhat in the enthusiasm of the fans with regard to their scramble for tickets and all for all the ball games going on.
I think there are a number of factors, Bob. First of all, of course, as you pointed out, the 1958 finish, the fact that for the first time in many years the club was a real contender for the pennant. And also, I think this city is such a wonderful sports community that so many things added together have combined for them to look forward to the season as we do, with optimism. Every place I've gone this past winter, I've heard so much about pennant, and we can't promise pennant. We can only say that we think we've got a better chance this year than we've had in Lord knows how many years.
Well, this leads me to a final question to you, Joe, with regard to the crop of rookies that are coming up from the minor league system that might possibly be an important addition to the 1959 squad. We know all about our present outfield, infield, and pitching and catching, but are there any boys in the minor leagues that might possibly be new names on the baseball horizons for 59 and years to come?
Bob, I would not care at this time to pick out any fellows that I think have outstanding chances. It's going to be rough for any new players to break into the Pirate lineup in the 1959 season. But I think we've signed in the past few years a number of boys that will be heard from and who will contribute to continued and future successes of the Pittsburgh Ball Club. We have some in this spring training camp now going on in Florida, but they've got their work cut out for them because there are a number of experienced players with ability that they're going to have to try and beat out. But of course, those rookies will be heard from in years to come and perhaps will replace some of the boys that we have on the present Pittsburgh club as father time or something else gets to them.
Well, all right, Joe Brown, our thanks to you for taking time out of your busy schedule to appear on this telethon on behalf of WQED, and we'll be back with other interesting personnel connected with the Pittsburgh Pirates in a little bit. Another in our parade of stars, ladies and gentlemen, on this telethon for WQED is the greatest third baseman of them all, Mr. Pie Traynor, whom you're looking at right now. Pie, I know that you've had a very busy winter, and you're looking forward, though, to a great season of baseball.
Yes, Bob, I think that after last year's great display of baseball strength, that the Pittsburgh Pirates will be reckoned with this coming season.
In all the years you've been connected with the Pirates, Pie, as a player and a manager, of course, I wouldn't ask you to single out this particular year over many others because there have been some great Pirate ball clubs. You played on a lot of them. You managed a couple of them. But of the recent 10 years, would you say that this team has its best chance?
Yes, on account of the development of three pitchers in there. There's Bob Friend and also Ronnie Klein, and Vernon Law. That's quite a bunch, a great staff, a great array of pitchers. That is 3 great pitchers in there. Now we might develop 4 or 5 pitchers from the others that are coming up this spring. But they've done a remarkable job, and they got what we call over the hump in baseball. They got their confidence now to carry on.
Hi, do you feel that in Forbes Field lack of power is a detriment, or are we a club that should be geared more on speed and defense and better pitching?
Well, you still got to get hitting. I don't care what you say. A fellow like Skinner now has found himself out there in left field. He's developed, and he should improve up at the plate. He is a fellow who meets the ball, and he should be able to get on base and come close to getting 200 hits. And that's a great asset to any ball club, because when a fellow gets 200 hits, the rest of that ball club there has many a chance to drive in a run, and sooner or later that runs do come in with a fellow like Skinner.
Tell me, Pi, one final question to you. Everybody keeps talking, oh, you know, this is the year to win the pennant, the bicentennial year, and what have you. Do you rate the ball club in a contending position to challenge for the pennant?
Well, yes, it's fellows, as I say, like Clemente and Verdon and Skinner. That's the greatest outfield in the National League defensively. The rest of them have got 2 good outfielders and probably one that's not so good, and it kind of hurts that other outfield. But this is the best. Now, if these 3 fellows can improve themselves, up at the plate, Skinner's all right, but I mean Verdon to come back to be able to hit 290, and also Clemente to go up around the 300 mark, it would help this ball club. This is a great defensive ball club. The pitching and the outfield was the backbone of this ball club last year, and with Mazeroski making that one excellent play that helped this pitching staff every game he played.
Well, okay, Pi Trainer, thank you very much for taking time out of your busy schedule to appear here on the telethon on behalf of WQED and their fine fundraising program, which we hope all of you fans looking in will certainly help and keep those phones ringing and do the very best you can to keep WQED on top in the nation where it's always been.
Thank you, Bob.
Next gentleman on our WQED telethon, in behalf of this fine station and the raising of funds here in the city of Pittsburgh, is the genial general manager and the manager of the year in baseball, Mr. Danny Murtaugh. Danny, I know that you're looking forward to 1959's campaign with a great deal of optimism.
That's right, Bob. We are looking forward to this coming campaign. It's the sin of our town of Colin at a pound with ink.
Well, tell me this. Do you think that you'll do about as well in 59 as you did in 1958?
It is the sin of tolerance when you have them, but if you don't have that defense, you can't with it talent.
How about your power situation, Dan? Are you concerned at all with that?
You put a Colin in the pen.
And then,
but outside of that, Bob, I think we're all right.
Well, that'll be fine. I would assume that particularly in our ballpark and those late night games, we would be much better off, wouldn't we?
Well, you never can tell. I think defense and runs win ball games, and we get both of them, we'll be all right.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, you got a little double talk there, and you can see how well Mr. Murtaugh does it. And we're not going to ask him to double talk anymore, but I will point out that one time several years back, and quite a few years back, when Danny was then a player, training out at San Bernardino, when you double talked Bing Crosby, but Bing caught on rather quickly.
That's his business, Bob. He had to, I think.
Dan, I know that you actually do look forward to this campaign in 1959. We're not going to ask you to go out on any limb or anything like that, but is there a feeling of optimism within you and your coaching staff that you just might have the year to make a real run for everything?
Well, I would say that's pretty hard to say, Bob. I think myself and the coaching staff, we're approaching this coming baseball season the same way we did last year. That is to try to get the most out of the boys. And if we do that, we'll feel that we have done a successful job. Now, how far we'll go, I couldn't tell, because anytime you're competing for a pennant, so much depends upon the breaks and also a lot of luck. And I think that any ball club that would successfully compete for a pennant must have the breaks and luck. You know, last year we had a lot of boys that played a lot of ball games without getting injured. Now, if we run into some injuries this year, you never can tell what may happen. But basically, I think we're a sound ball club. I don't look for our ball club to sink to the low depths that they previously had been the past 10 years. But I think all in all, we're going to have a very interesting ball club. We're going to have great teams beat, and I think we're going to have outstanding pitching. And if you have those two things, well, you've got a lot going for you.
Danny, you've often mentioned the word balance. This ball club that you're working with here in 1959 apparently has a lot of that.
Well, I think so, Bob. You know, when you say balance, you mean in the baseball vernacular that you have 8 boys equally adept at their positions. In other words, you don't have one outstanding weak spot. Now, I thought last year we had some outstanding weak spots in our ball club, but I think with recent acquisitions, we have maybe we're not as strong in one position as we should be, but the balance all in all will offset any lack of home run power that we may have lost.
Well, as an example, would balance be part of the situation if you happen to lose one of your 3 regular outfielders? Mejias could go in any one of those 3 spots. Would that be balance?
That's what you have to say when you say team balance. In other words, you not only have 9 men out there playing for you every day, but you have 3, 4 possibly real good men that once those boys out there cannot play the ball game that day, that you can put these reserves in and not weaken your ball club at all. And I think we have it.
In other words, our bench, too, is a little better or stronger, perhaps, than it's been in recent years.
Well, I think so, Bob. The one place that we might be hurting if something happens would be at second base.
Mm-hmm.
Right now, that would depend on Gene Baker's leg.
Mm-hmm. Well, we won't know too much about Baker until that season actually gets really well underway, in all probability. Well, Dan, thank you very much for taking the time and trouble to visit with us here on WQED on behalf of this fine station, and the best of luck to you and the Buccos in '59 and the years to come.
Well, thank you very much, Bob.
Very serious-minded young gentleman here, Mr. Danny Murtaugh, the Chester, PA fireman, who, as you know, was the manager of the year. Ladies and gentlemen, keep those phones ringing. The boys here at WQED will tell you the numbers. Certainly do all that you can within your power to keep WQED right up at the top of the ladder, the nation's outstanding television channel. Well, here on our telethon for WQED, we have 2 of the most important members of the Pittsburgh Pirate organization, no question about it. Our great 22-game winner in Bob Friend, and our little mop-up expert here in Roy Face. Bob starts them, many times finishes them, but whenever he gets in trouble or any other pitcher gets in trouble, you see Elroy come trudging out of the bullpen. Very nice to have you gentlemen with us here on WQED. And Bob, just what kind of a season are you looking forward to generally, not only for yourself but the entire team?
Well, Bob, this should be our greatest year. I'm certainly looking forward to another 20-game year, but if we can have, let's say, 7 or 8 fellows win 15 ball games and win the pennant, I'll be satisfied. It should be a real good season for us, and if we get off to a good start this year, I think we have a chance to win the pennant.
Well, Roy, nothing ever seems to bother you when you come out of that bullpen. Sometimes the boys on the club say you don't even know who's batting. You just rear back fire, fork ball, and relax. Is that about the definition of it?
Well, I always got an idea of who's hitting. I mean, I'm always thinking about that when I'm coming in, who the hitter is and where I'm going to pitch him and how I'm going to pitch him.
One of the great sights in baseball I always enjoyed is Haney sending up Adcock to face you. I've always figured that's another out, even though sometimes they've been a little long and they've been outs.
Yeah, he got a couple long ones last year, didn't he?
Sure did. I said, well, this game's over. We got him in the hip pocket, and he creamed one out into right field that Clemente gave us a hello, how do you do on. But, Roy, what's the general attitude of a relief pitcher? What are the things you have to be able to do to be a good fireman?
Well, I think the main thing is to be able to throw every day. I mean, and have a good control so that you can show strikes when you get in there. Because if you make the fella hit the ball, you got a chance of getting him out. Where if you walk him, you got to pitch to the next guy, and there's not much chance of getting him when you don't throw strikes.
And of course, when you come in, normally the ball club is in deep trouble.
Well, that's the way it seems to be all the time, and well, I more or less got used to it, and all I concentrate on is that the hitter is up there. The fellows are already on base; they can't hurt you because they're already out there. But the one that bats, the only fellow that can hurt you.
Well, no question about that. Now let me get back to Bob Friend for a moment. Robert, it seems to me the overall depth of the Pirate pitching staff is better than it's been in recent years.
Bob, it certainly is. The way I look at it, we could have 7 starters next year, with Benny Daniels coming into his own, a couple of boys by the name of George Perez and Joe Gibbon, and of course if Kurt Radin and George Witt continue where they left off last year, we're going to be in real good shape. And don't forget the newly acquired left-hander Harvey Haddix, who I think is capable of winning 15 ball games in our park. Harvey's a real competitor. He's an old pro. He's a very good hitter for a pitcher and one of the outstanding fielding pitchers in the game. So he's really going to help us, especially in those tough ball games.
Bob, I know that this is the job of manager Dan Murtaugh, but it would seem, of course, you'll be the bellwether. You'll be the big man on the pitching staff. You'll get your regular starts, and that's a cinch, whether it be 3 or 4 days. You'll be the regular starter. Then he'll come in, of course, with Klein and with Witt. He might possibly spot Haddix, but we've got long relief men too now, haven't we? If we wanted to use Law, for instance, or Porterfield in long relief, and then come back with the mop-uppers like Roy here and Don Gross.
That's right, Bob. With pitching depth, you can maneuver your staff to do a lot of things, and I'm just hoping, as I say, that we have 6 or 7 guys winning 15 games apiece, because if we have that, we win the pennant, Bob.
Well, that's what everybody's hopeful, of course, and Roy Face, one of the things that I think is important to you, and I'll just put it in my own language, is the fact with this pitching depth that Bob Friend here has been talking about, it might possibly give you a little more rest and might not call upon you quite as often to come in and work.
Well, that's all right by me, because the less I get in there, the more games we're going to win. The fellas are going all the way, and we're going to win more.
Roy, you've never had any arm trouble or anything like that?
No, I haven't. Nothing serious. 52, I had a calcium deposit in my shoulder, but they had x-ray treatment and dissolved that, and that's the only arm trouble I've ever had.
If you want to tap my head for knocking on wood, you go right ahead, buddy, because I know it's a very comforting thought to Bob Friend and everybody else to know that you and Don Gross are out in that bullpen in the event there's any difficulty. Best of luck to you, Roy, and have a wonderful year and many years to come.
Thank you, Bob.
And to you, Bob Friend, go out and nail them for 20 or better, but certainly the wish that you expressed that we have 5 or 6 15-game winners and the pennant in 59, I think this town would really be alive.
Certainly would, Bob. It's one of the finest sports cities in the country, probably the best baseball city in the league, and you know that. You've seen some of these other...
Well, you chose this town to live in, Bob. I think that's pretty indicative of your high regard for it.
Certainly do, Bob, and I'm certainly hoping that we can finally give this pennant talk a real chase this year, that one we've been talking about for the last 7 or 8 years. Fans certainly deserve it.
Well, one thing, Bob, is it true you've opened up 15 branch offices in your business? Every time I turn around, you're opening up a branch office. I thought that you'd become quite the Wall Street financier.
No, Bob, I am in the investment business and open a new branch office, but believe me, baseball is my number one still, and maybe when my arm runs out of gas in 5 or 6 years, I might turn to the investment business. But right now, I'm concentrating on baseball and the pennant.
Your investment's that strong right arm. And Roy, you and I will chisel away at some of the money he's logging up when we get up to be 55, and I might reach a little earlier than you, by the way.
Not too much earlier.
Well, just early enough. Don't you worry about it. Ladies and gentlemen, we've been talking here on behalf of WQED and their telethon to raise more money to keep this wonderful educational station right up at the very top, where it certainly has ranked in the nation for several years now and will continue to do so with your help. Our thanks to Roy Face and to Bob Friend. The Pirates thank you for allowing him to visit with you on this telethon on behalf of WQED.